From there, the next day, we flew from Quito to Baltra. Baltra is one of the islands in Galapagos. From Baltra itself, we then took a ferry across to Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz, we hopped on an SUV and went down to Porta Ayora. It's a little city. From there, we went to Santa Rosa. And Santa Rosa, we went up into the northern section where we are in the jungles now at Camp Safari. Unbelievable spot. The next day, the next 2 days, we did our scuba diving. Rich and I have actually gone to 25 different locations throughout the world, and Galapagos is known as one of the top diving places there.
That would be Galapagos.
Galapagos, excuse me. Thank you, Rich. And we went diving. It is a very advanced diving because of the surges and the current. And this, taken into consideration, it was the first time that we had to use a wetsuit because the weather is changing here. It's opposite to what we are in our hemisphere. The winter is approaching Galapagos, and so the water is a little more chilly. We had to use a 7mm wetsuit, and this gives you a little more buoyancy, and we had to learn to control this buoyancy. Our 4 dives that we took, the first 2 were up in the northern section of the island called Seymour Island, and then the next day we took 2 dives in the Gordon Rock area. Now, what is so interesting about the diving here is not only is there a lot of pelagic life that you find in the marine area, the normal types of fishes that we've seen in other dives, but here there's an unbelievable amount of sharks. And we experienced something that you wouldn't believe. We saw at one time 16 hammerheads coming right at us. And these are huge sharks, these hammerheads. They're exotic, prehistoric type looking animals. Along with that, the white-tipped sharks that's indigenous and endemic to the area here in Galapagos. So these were unbelievable dives that we took, seeing these ferocious sharks in the waters. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Galapagos, because the next day we went out to see all the different animals and to get a little idea what's going on. But it became famous through a guy by the name of Charles Darwin. Darwin came from the UK, and as a young man he went aboard a boat, a ship called the Beagle. And for 5 years they sailed the world looking for experiments to do with nature, botany, flora and fauna. And during these travels, Charles Darwin came here to Galapagos for a very short duration, and he observed some very interesting things. You see, there are over 18 different islands here in Galapagos, and these islands were formed as an archipelago, which means multiple different islands that were formed from volcano eruptions. So we even experienced going through the lava fields here as we went to different islands. But when he was here, he started noticing things that were really strange. For example, let's take the finch birds. He noticed that on each different island, they had the same species of the finch bird, but the beak had a different shape, a different size, according to the different types of food that the finch feeds on, the botany, the plants. So this is very fascinating to think about. And then he discovered the famous tortoise, because the name Galapagos is after the certain type of tortoise in the shape of a shell. He found that the same species on each different island had a different shape of shell according to the environment and what the turtle or tortoise lived in. So this started making Darwin start to think. He was here in 1835, and he saw these things happen. Another example would be that the cactus in certain islands grow very, very tall. And those islands are the ones that have the iguana, because the iguana eat the cactus fruit, the cactus leaves. But where the iguanas live, the cactus grows tall, so the iguana can't get to that cactus. Yet on other islands where there are no iguanas, the cactus are short. So these are just some of the examples that made Darwin start to think. And he went back to England 14 years later, after putting all this together in his experiments that he did. He wrote The Origin of Species. This was dynamite at the time because he was going against the Judaic Christian beliefs of the Old Testament, that God made the earth, and he made humans, and he made life in one day or so. This was completely different. He was talking about evolution, and he was talking about natural selection. The species actually adapts to his environment in order to survive. It's called survival of the fittest. And even at that time, when he came out in 1859 with Origins of the Species, they had cartoons of Charles Darwin pictured as an ape, because he was saying about evolution that we came from other animals as we tried to survive in our environment. So this was just a dramatic change of thinking that Darwin introduced to the world of evolution. Now let us tell you about the animals that are here in Galapagos, because that's something that's unbelievable. It is actually a scientific laboratory in reality, because each island was not populated, and these animals were able to grow, and they were endemic type animals to their area, living in their area. For example, the iguanas, there are two types that we've seen here. One is called the land one. It's a very yellow, ugly looking animal. There's another that's another scary kind of prehistoric animal, the marine iguana. So we've had our experiences with the iguanas. We've gone to the breeding grounds in the lava fields. Also, the thing that made Galapagos so famous was the Tortuga, which is the tortoise. And we went to the breeding grounds of the Tortuga, and we actually saw the tortoises copulating, breeding. This is unbelievable, and you'll catch another video that shows this copulation with the tortoise. The male tortoise was having a lot of fun and making all kinds of sounds. I don't think the female was really enjoying herself. But we saw the breeding and how they breed the different tortoises, and there's a whole program of conservation and seeing that these tortoises do not become extinct here in the Galapagos Islands. Other types of animals we've seen the sea lions, we've seen the penguins, what other, Rich?
Blue-footed booby?
Yes, can you believe it? Rich and I have always felt that these boobies were invasive to us, but we did find, and finally found, the blue-footed booby birds. Their feet are blue, and they're very picturesque. So there's unbelievable type of animals that are here that can be spotted. We've had a wonderful time here in Galapagos, and now today we are heading out the Amazon basin in Ecuador. We're going to be traveling 5 hours into the jungles, the rainforest, and we're going to be meeting with the tribes who have done shrunken heads, and then we're going to go on a whitewater rafting trip down the tributary of the Amazon River.
And so we're staying in a tent.
We're staying right here in a tent, and we've been living here, roughing it in a tent. It's unbelievable how we've been able to survive under these conditions. But I'm telling you something, we're ready to go back to the Byblos and Saint-Tropez. See you in the Amazon.